So before I go into this, let me introduce my company. So NetWin FinTech is our latest baby. We have two more companies, NetWin Systems and Software India Private Limited, which is into banking solution, and NetWin Info Solutions is a software development and independent software testing company. So you guys would be wondering what has IoT to do with banking. So we also do a lot of product engineering and product development work, and IoT comes under that domain where we work with customers all over the world. So we have clients in US, Europe, almost all countries in Europe, South Africa, and Australia. This is a 25 years old group based out of Nashik and Pune. So this case example is of a implementation we did in US. This was about almost a few years back. This is a chain of holiday homes based out of a very popular holiday destination in US, and the customers have more than 200 properties, which they wanted to control through IoT. Their requirement was to control the properties centrally from a single location, and since they always run out of manpower or human resources, so they wanted minimum human interface in all their properties. So the customer journey was customer book the property from the website or a mobile app, and they would book for a specific date and a specific property, and the whole process of booking and payment is managed from this website. Now, once the booking is done, the guest get a booking confirmation and also get some codes. So all the devices or the equipments which are there in the properties are all IoT compliant. So which enable them to be controlled online, either by the guest or by the operators. So there is a central operations team. So all the access to the property, all the properties are controlled through IoT devices, and interfaces can be accessed by the guests. In the sense, like depending upon what kind of facilities they have booked, which property they have booked, or which part of the property they have booked, their accesses are controlled. In some of the almost all the properties, there is not a single person there in the property. So everything is sort of humanless and contactless. So as I said, IoT products have been integrated on every property to manage and control the devices on the property. What are those devices? I'll tell you in detail. So the company has tie-ups with third-party maintenance vendors, in the sense, so whenever there is a problem in any of the property, so somebody needs to repair them, right? So for example, if it is a spa or a pool or maybe a gym, so somebody has to attend either remotely or physically go there and repair the property. So all the vendors, third-party vendors or third-party service providers are also connected to this property. So they get early alerts if anything goes wrong, or if customers, the guest raise a alarm or raise a complaint. So they have visibility to that, and with very less response time, very fast response time, they can attend to those complaints and solve the problem. So some of the things I've taken here, which are controlled. One is the integrated. We have integrated the pool and spa controller. So in US, during almost all the year round, the pool has to be the pool water has to be heated. So everything needs heating. So there are a lot of heating equipments all over the property. So the thermostats and the temperature controllers, temperature monitoring, those things are there. And then there's a security. So access to all the doors were or access points were controlled through that IoT devices. Apart from this, there were a lot of other things which was there, but like for example, lighting control and all those things. But I'll cover that later. So for security, we integrated the security controller to the control property doors, and we could control the doors from web application or from the app. So each of the guests had to download an app which gave them a control app. I will show you some pictures also, which gave them a control to sort of, for example, they wanted to use the pool. So they would accordingly book it, and if they want a particular temperature, then they will set the temperature, and accordingly the pool would be heated to that temperature when they go, they decide to take a dip there. So then, so this was pool and spa controller. All the thermostats, like all the thermostats were controlled centrally. We had receivers where all the inputs from the thermostats, all the sensors were taken, and the outputs were accordingly uh, either programmed or manually controlled, in the sense through a central control or a mobile device, so that they were as per the customer expectations. So this is the implementation we did. We have done few more, but I'll speak more generally because we are bound with non-disclosure agreements with most of our clients. So I'll try to, without talking specifically about any customer, I'm going to speak about how a smartphone or a smart building is implemented. So if you see anywhere, like even in India, now the intelligent homes or buildings are the homes of the 21st century. So in Mumbai, if you see all the Nariman Points and South Mumbai buildings, most of them have introduced this IoT, wherein they combine innovations with skillful management to make the life of the occupants, the people who live in those buildings or homes, very comfortable, and also give them savings. So these are the two basic objectives why people go for smart home or smart buildings, apart from others. One is to have a comfortable life, and second is to give them savings. How? We will learn. So apart from this, these buildings also keep a watch over themselves. So maintaining a building or a home, if you are in big cities, is a big issue, because you don't get manpower to maintain, and secondly, you don't have time to maintain of your own. People go for automation for maintaining their property, the buildings, or all the appliances they use in the buildings, and also their repair and maintenance, everything they want to be automated. So these devices which are there in the building, they manage access. They control the lights. Like when you leave, you want your lights to be off, and you want your lights to be only on in the premises which you're using, and other lights should be off. Again, there are a lot of other things which are there, in the sense uh, like what kind of ambience you want to create, that also can be created. Then they control the temperature, like for HVAC, it control the temperature. It shut down the air conditioners. HVAC is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. So they shut down the air conditioners, check the water storage tanks, heat the pool water, recharge the central UPS in case of a power failure, or switch on the alarm in case of fire. So these are some of the use cases which are there in the smart home or a smart building kind of environment. So where the technology is used, the technology is used to create a building which is safer and more productive for its occupants and more operationally efficient for its owners. Uh, Both these things are very important. Operationally efficient means you don't want technology to be there, which basically makes it difficult for you to use the equipments, but it should make it more easier and more efficient. And it should be productive for the occupants, in the sense you should be able to do more work within less amount of time, which is the norm, which is a requirement in any big city. Next, it has also interface with a lot of virtual assistants, voice commands, third-party integrations, like for example, Google Calendar, your transportation agencies, retail companies, banks. Why that is so? Because uh, local control of any property or home is, of course, beneficial. But then a lot of things are required in today's world. A lot of things are linked to your outside world. So you need help to schedule your meetings. You need help to your devices to remind you. For example, there is an alarm. It should sync with your calendar and give you alarms. If there are intelligent kitchen equipments, then they should accordingly prepare you the stuff in syncing with your schedule. And these all things should be sort of enabled with voice commands and with virtual assistant like Google Assistant or Siri or Cortana. This I think is possible where you can integrate those with your devices. Then there is integration with health providers, pharmacies. That is also possible. So, like give an example, and it's a very real life example actually, wherein there are sensors which can be connected with a lot of your yeah, equipments which you use, and it can give alerts. Like take an example, take a very situation like there's a person actually who comes back from the office, and he's very pleasantly surprised, or rather surprised, to receive some goods from the pharmacy, and because he has not ordered anything, so he receives medicines, and he's very surprised. So he inquires the providers and say why the medicines. So he gets an alert, a message that these medicines have been ordered because of the details which the sensors which were there in the toilet from the affluent which he released in the morning. They could sense that there's some problem with him, and accordingly those medicines was prescribed. So connected living, connected banking, connected uh, shopping, connected health. All these things are real now, and people are working towards making it very easy and useful to use for the people. Now, the next point is why this is necessary. I gave you some insights into this, but I'll take this into more details. Why did we implement this, and why the smart building systems or smart home systems are necessary? So one of the reason obviously is they make you comfortable. So you can manage things in easier way and least possible way, and with minimum amount of effort. So principally, these are the areas where smart building system focuses on. One is the security. So integrated security allows you for minimized response times. So what happens is, say for example, you're not at your home, and there is a visitor there, and you want to give access. So the camera will automatically detect that there is a third person or an intrusion in your properties. It will alert you on your mobile wherever you are, with whatever ways you enable. Like, it could be audio, it could be text, or it could be in-app notifications, and you would be able to sort of see like see the get the feeds of the cameras to see that who is the person. You can talk to that person if he's a person who is expected, and you can also allow that person limited access into your house. And if you don't want any access to be given, then that access will be denied. Second case is about lighting. So lighting is the single most impactful applications of IoT in the smart buildings. We have done this in our own office, and it has saved us a lot amount of sort of electricity bills by saving on the energy usage. So what it does is there are a couple of things. One is it will intelligently switch on. So based on motion sensors, it will sense whether how many people are there in the room, and accordingly it will only switch on those amount of lights. If there are no, some of the areas are there which we normally switch on the lights every time, like 24/7, common areas, your washrooms, the lights are always on. So if you put such devices there, it will switch off the lights and save a lot of energy. Second and third thing would be like in areas where you want to bring in certain impact. So based on, like for example, in your living room, you want to create a particular ambience during the day and different kind of ambience during evening, a particular type of usage. Say, for example, you're watching a movie. So those things are possible using IoT controlled devices and IoT controlled lighting. And it says that it saves up to 80% of the cost. We have experienced this in our company. There are devices which are sort of compatible with such kind of applications. Next is the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Here again, there is a lot of saving which is done. More than saving, it gives you comfort. Like for example, the place where I am sitting now, it is temperature controlled. So depending upon like how many people are in there in this room, it will automatically change the temperature, and it saves a lot of energy. Now the air conditioners which are available now currently, they also have variable compressor usage. In the sense, like for example, in our build, my office, my installed capacity is around 110 tons of air conditioning. But now with COVID, there are very few people coming to office. It can go, the consumption go to 10% of this. So without this IoT, it is very difficult to, or without this IoT sort of compatible devices, it is very difficult to do this, and it will result into huge savings, huge energy savings to the, or energy cost to the company and to the person. Any, it could be building, or it could be home, or it could be an office. Next is the fire safety. Again, this is a very important application. See, we nowadays, what like earlier, what used to be done is there were fire sensors, and those fire sensors were connected through cabling uh, to a controller, manual controller, and then to a alarm devices. Those sirens were there, but there are few problems with that. One is like there is a response time is more, and it is a localized alarm. Many times when nobody's there in the offices, you won't be able to hear that alarm. Or if there are places where those sensors or those alarms cannot be heard. So in an IoT kind of environment, there is a central controller, a digital controller, and then there are a lot of other. It can be linked with other things. Like for example, you can check the air quality of, and instead of getting a fire or a smoke alarm, you'll get alarm from the air quality sensors. So such things are possible. So in summary, all these things will give you a lot of energy savings and cost savings and increase the comfort. So that is one reason. Second is, so the six main things are security, power savings, third party integration, fire safety, HVAC, and lighting. Apart from this, so what these four things, what these six things actually mean? So first is you have to cater. Like for example, in Mumbai or any big cities, you have to cater to the safety requirements of the local bodies, or maybe whosoever the regulatory authority. So IoT will enable you to very aggressively and proactively comply with all the safety requirements, and that is what in US also we did. So using this, we could comply with all the safety requirements. Different countries have different cities have different safety requirements. Different type of buildings have different safety requirements. Then there is legislation. So legislation both like in terms of usage of IoT and also how IoT should be used. Like for example, there are concerns around uh, privacy, security of the devices. So a lot of legislation. In India, there are not much legislation, but in US there are a lot of legislation. In Europe also, there are a lot of legislations or laws around IoT. Third imperative is scarcity of resources. So even in India, like in bigger cities, as I said earlier, there are scarcity of people who can manage the buildings or manage your homes, manage the very high tech equipment which you use in day to day life, and then automation will make it easier for easier for you to manage this with less number of people. And those people, the rest of the people you can use for other meaningful purposes. And the last, of course, is the cost pressure. So since the energy costs are increasing, almost all consumables are in the costs are increasing. So it helps to use IoT to decrease your recurring cost or running cost of any property or home. So that is another basically imperative why any complex infrastructure would require to use IoT based. So these are the goals: energy conservation, then security and safety of occupants, which I've explained, sustainability achievement. So you want each and every building home to be self-sustainable, in the sense it should be sustainable over a long period of time, sustainable from energy usage point of view, sustainable from cost point of view, sustainable from green norms point of view. So, and IoT will make it very help you in making your property sustainable. From a security and safety, of course, you want your security and safety of the occupants to be. So, like, give an example. So, I have been a couple of years back. I was in South Africa, and you might be aware that there are a lot of security situation post what happened in South Africa. So there is a section of the people who don't feel safe, and there are a lot of what to say, especially in cities like Johannesburg, a lot of security issues are there. So I saw almost every building, every home had a security automated automation in the building, and it was then there were agencies who could control the security remotely or centrally. So such kind of implementation gives a lot of comfort to the occupants. Next is operational efficiency. So you want your buildings to be or your home to be efficient. I'll give you some examples in the later part of my presentation, how operational efficiency can be achieved. Like for example, uh, say your coffee maker is IoT enabled, or your car is IoT enabled. Now, depending upon, say, in the case of coffee maker, like you have a meeting at 7:30 and you have to leave for office at 7 o'clock in the morning. So accordingly, your coffee maker can sync with your calendar, and the coffee would be ready whatever time you set. Like for example, you want to take 15 minutes before you leave the house, so that will be ready. So you save that time. Similarly, your washroom water can be heated before you use you use your shower. So those things are possible. The operational efficiency in a factory kind of environment, there are a lot of other things which can be achieved in using the IoT. I have seen in Bosch how they use IoT for material handling. So instead of storing the material in one place centrally, they could move the material based on the requirement, and the requirement of store in the machine shops greatly reduced. So such kind of operational efficiency can be achieved. Occupant satisfaction very much important. Ultimately, we all do everything to satisfy the occupants. And then the last is the financial optimization. You want to save everything. You want to do everything because you want to get an ROI over that. You want to sort of save on your recurring costs, save on your even the capital cost. And a lot of models have evolved where the capital costs have gone down. So this is a typical global smart home or smart building kind of market. The top figures are the households which are using this smart system. So right now there are 309 million. So it is almost the population of US. So those many households are using this smart home systems. And in terms of the amount, so almost $157 billion. This is the total global smart home market, and this is growing. This is growing almost in 45 degrees now. So in the next 10 years, it is going to be a huge market, and then the costs are coming down. So now the kind of money you have to spend to get your home smart is reducing like anything, and maybe in few years there won't be any capital cost. There will only be a recurring cost to have your building convert into a smart building. So still with this, 30% of the households will have smart systems by 2023. This is still a huge number. This is a large economy, and 20% large developed countries, 21% will have remote monitoring and control by 2023, and device sales will account for 52% of the total spending 2023. So this is a rough division. We get an impression that this is only implemented in North America or the developed economies, but in Asia Pacific also there is about 30% of the total implementation are in Asia, and of course, obviously, North America is a leader with 40% of implementations. So just a moment, what happened? So I gave you basic where SBS or smart home or smart building is implemented and why it is implemented. I'll touch upon now a little how it is implemented and what other things which are implemented. So as you know, it is an intelligent platform that will transform efficiency, comfort, and safety for the people and the assets. So it provides productivity, flexibility, effective comfort, and secure environment for the. And this also we have seen which are the major areas. So it is security, energy, security access control and video surveillance, energy information management and energy management, environment control, that is HVAC, water management, lighting systems, and safety, fire and smoke detection and alarm. And how this is done? So these are some of the things like you have lighting control, security control, hot water, camera control, smoke sensors. You have electric plugs, like all the electrical accessories which come. They are all IoT enabled in a sense, both in terms of getting inputs from them as well as actuating or switching on or switching off some equipments, or maybe giving a variable output to certain equipment. Then motion sensors are another thing which are there. Temperature sensors are there, and heating, both sensors, temperature sensors, and heating equipments for IoT. So this building automation overview, I'll just explain in brief. So as I said, that for the users, either it could be a mobile interface or a desktop interface or a tablet interface. Nowadays, they also have a voice interface. So if you're traveling in a car, you can get the inputs right from the voice or any voice assistant you have, or you can also give inputs from a voice, and a lot of security work is going on in that field to ensure that the voice recognition and all those protocols or algorithms are implemented. The second layer is the where exactly you need to implement this. So as I said, in lighting fixtures, like your lighting bulbs, your heaters, then your many types of lighting fixtures would be there. Like for example, the staircase lighting or garden lighting, your outdoor lighting, indoor lighting, all those things are managed. Lux meters, so not only switching on and off, but also ensuring that a right intensity is set. So you can fit the lux meters to give inputs on the sense the intensity, and accordingly you can control the switching on or off of the fixtures. And occupancy sensors, those are motion sensors or maybe proximity sensors, which can check the occupancy or presence of people in a particular area. In energy generation and management, you can control a solar plant, you can control a LPG gas tank if you're using that for energy. You can so now all the energy meters are IoT compliant. Like for example, in a company, we have the panels, and all the energy meters fitted in the panels are energy like IoT compliant. We get the we get the inputs from those energy meters. We can feed it to a computer. We can access. We can analyze. We can compare. We can do a lot of analysis on consumption. Which part of the office is consuming what kind of energy, and its historical comparisons we can do. Even in electricals, I'll come to that later. Then fuel cells. Fuel cells that also they are IoT compliant now. For parking, whether it is the personal parking, private parking, or public parking, so there also you have automatic number plate recognition. This is a technology being used. So you take a picture, and then from picture that you recognize the number plates, and then the parking sensors, parking guides, and basically parking guides would guide you like where the parking is available for the type of parking you need, and if you're subscribed, then within that subscription which parking is available, and then boom barrier to give access to parking. So some of these things are already implemented in India. Like for example, in Nashik, we have on almost every city now, almost 100 plus cities, the smart city corporations, corporation or smart city agencies are implementing this. So they are implementing smart parking, wherein there is a sensor. So all the parking slots are earmarked everywhere in the city, and there are sensors. Those sensors are connected through Wi-Fi to a central receiver, and from there feed goes to the central server and to the mobile app, wherein you can see that where the parkings are available. Even there are parking indicators, displays are there. So you'll get to know that where the parking is available. It can be synced with your Google API like GPS, and it will direct you to the vacant parking, and then all payment systems, everything can be integrated to get the parking. And when you take out your car, then automatically that particular parking gets vacant, and somebody else can use it. HVAC, there are cooling towers where you want to optimize that, how much usage should be there depending upon the consumption. Chillers can be IoT compliant. Variable air and refrigeration volume. So you control the airflow and the air quality through this IoT compliant devices. Nowadays, even your other equipments also, electrical equipments are also like even domestic, like what AC you use in the house, those are also IoT compliant devices. In water supply, you can have water pumps which can be actuated through a IoT in the smart homes, or water tanks which will give you the indication what level it is and when do you need to fill the water, so that everything can be unattended, controlled unattended. And then the flow meters also are IoT compliant. So, like for example, now the utility agencies in Europe, they don't take the meter of your flow meter by coming to your place and recording the reading the way it is done in India in most of the places. It is automatically read, and there is no person who visits and takes the reading. Whatever consumption you do at the end of the period, your billing period, invoicing period, the recordings, the flow meter readings are recorded. So it's a continuous process actually, not at the end of the period. It's continuously read. Electricals, as I said, the UPS and the circuit breakers, the switch gears you use, those are also IoT compliant. We all use this in our office also. So, say for example, if there is a over voltage or there is a battery, low watt battery to the UPS, there are many parameters actually. So those parameters are captured, and those alerts goes to the people who are responsible. Say for example, I'll get a alert on my mobile if the UPS is not working well, or the battery levels have gone down, or maybe there is under voltage or over voltage, or maybe one phase is not working. So all those things are indicated so that I can take steps, appropriate steps. Even the generators also, like the fuel levels of your generators gone down, or there is some issues with the generators. So those can be, those you can receive alert, and you can do some predictive sort of maintenance work also in those equipments. Switch gears also you can control remotely. Like for example, in data centers, you normally don't get a access, like everyone doesn't get an access to into the data center. Should not go inside because there are a lot of other issues, your humidity, your other than dust can go inside the data center. So there's a BMS which controls everything in the data center. You can control which machines you have to switch it on and off, which like so switching is all switching is possible to all the equipments, whether it is a precision ACs, whether it is sensors, whether it is your gas units for a fire extinguisher, or individual power supply to each of the servers if you want to switch it on or switch it off without actually going inside. Then there are smart systems in the sense you want to control things from centrally control the things. So like for example, hot desking is a process where you want to have single machine to be used by multiple number of people. So you can centrally sort of control those equipments using either your TCP/IP protocols, or there are some few more protocols available to control that. Last would be the elevators. Again, you might have seen this in hotels. I don't know in India, but wherever I go outside, all the elevators are controlled in the sense you get a card. So if your room number is say in fifth floor, so you can only stop on fifth floor. You can't stop at fourth floor or sixth floor. So the elevator will give you access to only your floor. If it's a section of a floor which there is a separate access, then you will get access to only that floor. So we'll take one by one what implementation we have. So security access control, as I said, human-less grant of access based on prescribed access rules. So the access rules are prescribed into the system, and based on that, it will give you the access to only that part of the property. Like in the property, we automated if somebody didn't have access to a particular section, say for example, kitchen. So then they didn't get access to the kitchen, or they had access to a particular, they didn't access to some certain banquet hall. Then they'll get access to the banquet hall only for that those many number of those many hours. Or say 2 hours they are booked, then they'll get access only 2 hours. And automatically after 2 hours, nobody will come to you and say that no, your access over. Your access will be over. Lights will get switched off, and you'll have to vacate the premises. Then you can limit the access also, like for certain, as I said, certain time the access is there, and other times you don't have an access. Or certain area you'll have access, certain area you don't have access. Or you want to auto lock. Say for example, in the home, you so at night you want to lock everything, all the gates, even your house, your home gates, main gates, even the society where you are there, those gates also should get locked. And then everyone who has code only will get access. Other people won't get any access to the amenities or to the community gates. So there are other things which are used, smart cards. So for access, what is used? Smart card is used. There is one of the popular ways of, so the magnetic cards, RF cards are available. So your identity is coded into that card, and based on what is programmed, you will get access to when you swipe the card. Then there is biometric access. Again, for this attendance and everything, this is used in offices, in home. You can do a biometric access wherein you want to restrict certain areas. You can use the biometric access. It can also use your retina fingerprint or retina to gain an access. Or you can have a code-based access, wherein a code 4-digit or 6-digit code is given to you, and you just have to in a touchscreen you have to key in the code, and then only you'll get access to that area. For surveillance, CCTV, so all the camera inputs, whether it is a CCTV camera or like perimeter devices, which could be intrusion alarms or proximity switches, which will sort of guard your certain section of your offices. Or so these all feeds can also go into the receivers. You not only can see the manual feeds, but also there are softwares available which can access those feeds to get, like for example, if you fitted a camera in your front room and you're not in your house, front or in front of your house, and if or maybe in periphery of your house, and if some intruder comes into your property, So it will give you the feed, but it will also recognize that there is a person who has entered it, and it will give you an alarm so that you can check the feed and see that who is the person. And if he's the person who is allowed in the property, then you can talk to that person, interact with him, and accordingly take actions. Smoke detection, this has advanced, this is developed like anything. Earlier there were simple smoke detectors, now there are air quality detectors. So this gives an advanced warning. Before you can actually see the smoke from your bare eyes, naked eyes, you will get a warning before that. So it will check the air quality, and if there are small particles, like right from the beginning of the smoke, if there are small particles, then it will give an alarm that even you won't be able to smell it, still it will give an alarm. Because early detection is prevention, your equipments are prevented, your precious equipments loss is prevented, and also you get time. Your people can respond and sort of take care of the property. Fire protection devices, whether it is a central pump or your sprinklers. So those things are also now become intelligent. Earlier, the manual systems are not being used now; they are intelligent. So you can control the area where it will be sprinkled instead of the whole building. So there is a you might have seen the video, like there is a smoke in one area and the whole hotels will have sprinklers turned on. It doesn't happen that way now. You can have only that area where there is a problem. Then water management, water level indicators, leak detection. So if there is a leakage anywhere, that also can be detected. So the flow is measured. So you'll if there's a deficiency in flow, you'll find out that there is a leakage somewhere, and accordingly that area can be uh, looked into and solved. Water usage meters and billing systems I've already explained. Energy management is another use case there, where you can have smart system for UPS and energy meters. Gas management, irrigation is which are not explained. So irrigation is this, there is a very good use case for IoT in smart homes for garden irrigation. So based on the moisture of your soil, based on the climate, current climate. Say for example, now this is a rainy season, so you'll require less irrigation, or the type of plants which you grow in the garden. You can program your irrigation system. You can control it remotely. You can do it, put it in the auto mode. And say, for example, you are in office and you want to switch it on the irrigation system. It's possible to do that. HVC I've already explained and won't go much into this. So you can control the temperatures. A smart thermostat actually reads the temperature and accordingly controls it. You can control the humidity also. You can detect how many people are there and accordingly set the temperature and airflow. The smart HVC can detect if there is a vent is blocked. So this is very important application. So normally what happens is, why compressors overwork. There is a blockage in some vent, and now the compressors have to work hard, and it so happens that the area where there is a blockage, it will receive less amount of airflow, and maybe some area where there's no people, it will receive the more air conditioning, and the place where there are more people, it will receive less air conditioning or less cooling, and resulting into more power consumption or more usage of the compressor. So that is prevented in such kind of environment. Compressors and air handler, these are the energy guzzlers. So compressors are the equipments which take maximum energy in any building or any office. And if you manage this properly, like I'll give an example here. So in our office, we have a 320 kVA transformer, which we convert from LT to HT to LT. And our connected load was 260 kW, because based on the specifications of our air conditioning and UPS and all those things. But with IoT and smart equipments, our energy consumption is almost half of what we predicted, we are designed for, because of very smart usage which we have implemented in our office. Again, illumination is the another area where you can save money. So you can convert your areas into zones, subzones, and accordingly you can control the lighting of each zones and subzones automatically based on proximity switches and occupancy sensing equipment. So you can program it for a particular time control. Say, for example, again, I'll give you a lot of examples of my office because we have implemented everything here. So we have preset time like 8 o'clock. So the lights will go off, or we can, so our shifts, all the shifts are over by 8 o'clock. So all the lights go off. Then if somebody wants, they can switch it on, or you can program, you have to program that this area light should be on. Or air conditioning also, like there we have set certain amount. Normally what happens is we are centrally air conditioned. So normally what happens is all the air conditioners are working, even if people are not there. So we sense it and switch it off. So it saves a lot of energy. Then light level monitoring. So if there is, say, dark outside, then some areas even during the daytimes the light lux levels go down. So you need to sense the light level and accordingly switch on your lights. Parking systems I've already explained. So this is a very very good use case, which is used all around the world for efficient parking. So it might so happen that some areas there are a lot of vacant parking, and some areas there are a lot of people who are parked on the roads because there is no parking space. So this will allow you to sort of find out where the parking and avoid like unnecessary crowding at some. And with connected cars or connected uh, uh, traffic, this would be of very much use actually, wherein it will tell you in advance like which is the area or which is the shopping area where there is no parking available, or which is the shopping area where you should go because there is parking available, or which route you should take while going to your office because what is the traffic level of at each of the road. So these things are possible using IoT, and this also can be synchronized with a lot of other things. Like for example, your train timings, your train schedules, your flight schedules, all those things can be synced with this to come out with use cases where you can efficiently use your equipments and your uh, cars or anything you use. So major components in this implementation is uh, sensors, of course. So they measure values such as like, gas output. In case of data center, they measure the CO2 output value, temperature, humidity, daylight, or room occupancies. Different types of sensors are the proximity sensors, air quality sensors, moisture sensors. All those are there. Then controllers. These are basically the brain. So you get the inputs, process it, and then give outputs. So these are the brain of the system. They can take data from sensors and decide how the system should respond. And when it decides, it gives the output to the output devices. These are basically relays and actuators. So this could be solenoid valves, or could be simple relays, and then those can be connected to other devices. Then there is a communication protocol. So all these devices are connected to each other, right? So they need to talk to each other, and they need to be connected to each other very easily. If every device you need to sort of program it and then do the handshaking, then do the interface and integration, it will be very difficult to use that. So there has to be common platform. So a lot of common platforms have evolved, like in this case of UPS and your fire safety. BACnet is the protocol which is used. There are a lot of other protocols which I'm cover in the presentation later. And then there is a dashboard or user interface. So if there is no interface, then people would not know like what is happening behind the scenes. Everything is automatically done, but people need to get a visibility, or they need to override. They need to do a manual override over the equipments. If they don't get an interface, then it will be very difficult. So what are the types of interface? So interface are either could be a mobile interface, like you can do it from a mobile device, or a website or web interface, or there are now tabs available. Now voice interface is available. A lot of state-of-the-art interfaces are getting developed. So in a nutshell, there are these four levels actually, or 5 levels. So one is the physical objects. So these are the objects which you want to control, like for example, vehicle, car, home, appliances, people, animals, anyone you want to control. So these are physical objects whom you want to control or you want to enable on IoT. Then you want to collect, the next step is to collect the data from them. So you have sensors and actuators, so to control them. So sensors give you the inputs, actuators will give the output to these devices. So these devices have to be IoT compliant. Nowadays, the old devices are the companies who make it compliant to IoT. So they'll fit a small unit into that device. Say, for example, if your refrigerator is not IoT compliant, so you can fit a small device into your washing machine or a refrigerator to make it IoT compliant. So this basically what they do is they fit those sensors and actuators, and the inputs or the outputs to this actuators are controlled by the gateways. So all these are connected to the gateways. So nowadays, most of the things are connected wirelessly. So a lot of protocols are wireless protocols, or there could be wired devices also. Sometimes this gives analog output. So from the sensors, you get an analog output, but the gateways have to be digital. So they have to be converted from analog to digital. So these gateways and acquisition devices do that. After that, this is another level of management. So these inputs or the information for the gateways have to be. There are a lot of analysis done or programming done. Programming can be done on 2 levels. One is at the premises. At the premises, you can have maybe what is called as edge computing. So some preliminary analysis, some preliminary control can be done within the premises, but then you did not invest or in an infrastructure, advanced infrastructure. So what you can do is pass on that information to a data center or a cloud repository where you could manage multiple premises, maybe multiple countries or multiple states, multiple cities, so that the infrastructure, the return on investment is good. So that is another level of infrastructure which is involved. So this is typical smartphone, smart home architecture which is followed. Little giving you a better perspective. So these are the some of the protocols or device connectivity protocols which are followed. One is Wi-Fi, second is Zigbee, Wave, OnWave. There are many more actually, and these are the devices which are compliant, currently compliant with IoT, like door and window sensors, water and flood sensors, door locks, outlets, light bulbs. Now you receive like you can buy a IoT compliant light bulb from store, from a counter. Garage door openers, thermostat, energy management, shade controls like your curtains and all those things can be IoT compliant, motion detectors and surveillance cameras. And then these are receivers, actually local receivers. So access twine is one protocol. Your gateway, hardware gateway is another that takes on all the values. Then you can inputs also can come from like voice assistants like Google Assistant, Amazon Alexa, or Cortana or Siri. And then there are other equipments which are available, like for example your TV or your set-top box or maybe your network attached storages. That also can be connected here. And ultimately, so all data will go to your internet or to your cloud. I'll speak more detail about this. So these are some of the hardware tech providers currently available. There are many actually. I've mentioned few. So we work with Honeywell, we work with Legrand, Schneider also, Siemens also. There are many in camera technology. There are few vendors who manufacture IoT compliant devices and equipments. Then I'm mentioning a few of the popular IoT cloud platform. Why cloud platform first? So it could be any cloud, Google Cloud or maybe Amazon AWS IoT cloud. Why cloud is See, IoT requires a lot of processing power and backend policies and algorithms. Uh, it is not possible for a small implementation to have everything developed from scratch. These are which I've mentioned on the screen. These are something which are readily available. Only thing what you have to do is you have to convert whatever inputs you have or whatever you want into their format and integrate with them and use something which is already available. You are using a very small part of the entire architecture, in entire infrastructure. So these cloud platforms are very useful, especially for students. They if they can learn those skills, this could be very useful for them when they enter the professional life or they enter the professional world. So just I wanted to mention few things. Amongst them, Google Cloud or say AWS. These are very popular. Even the others one also, Cisco is also very popular. So what this cloud does, I'll just touch upon them. So they not only allow you to do the analysis, but say for example in Google Cloud, the Google Cloud IoT Core allows you to capture and handle the device data. So all the data which you capture from the devices, you can pass it on to them with a local agent, and they perform data ingestion, message routing for further data processing, like where you want to send the data. So you can those message routes can be done, routing can be done with their configuration setup. You can do that. So you need not program it. You just have to configure it. Then it enables secure real-time data analytics. You can set the dashboards like what information you want, where, which user would require what type of information and in what format. Say for example, in command control, you can have a lot of information on a single screen. Then it also allows you to use a lot of AI thing, machine learning features, like a lot of generate data is generated. So you can use this data, not only your data, but also data which is generated by other such use cases. And based on that, you can have a lot of algorithms developed, which allows you to sort of predict the behavior. Say, for example, if some particular person is entering your place, and depending upon the camera feed and your machine learning algorithms which you can make out whether what kind of person, if he's an unknown person, then what kind of personal behavior it is, or maybe some best practices you can find out using the machine learning features. Then there are some tools to visualize data by making reports and dashboards that I mentioned. So you can develop beautiful comparison charts, historical charts, then graphical interfaces using this. And then you can relate this to sync this with your maps, whether it is Google Maps. So you can find out where this problem is with reference to a map, and it helps in actually locating that issue or locating that object with the help of a map. So their use cases are predictive maintenance for equipments. So it will tell you before the equipment. Say, for example, it is possible now using IoT and machine learning to predict the failure of equipment. It could be a car, it could be a machine. You can predict by a number of ways. One is their history, their maintenance history, their mean time between failure. Every equipment will have some mean time between failure readings and how much usage has been done and how much is remaining. Or you can predict sensing the noise or the noise that particular equipment makes and put it in the machine learning algorithm to find out whether that machine will fail or not. Then there is a real-time asset tracking, which is a use case. Logistic and supply chain. This is a huge use case for fleet management and supply chain management. In warehouse, like in a lot of this Walmart and those warehouses, this is used for better supply chain management. So use barcodes or RFIDs to manage your inventory and just-in-time kind of manufacturing. And of course, smart cities and buildings, which we mentioned. This is AWS, Amazon's core. So these are the protocols we are saying: MQTT over WSS, HTT, and LoRaWAN. So these are the protocols which are normally used by. So it supports all these equipment. So some of the equipments will have some protocol. They would be enabled for, like for example, in mobile you have LTE or 2G, 3G, 4G. Similar kind of protocols are there here also. So, and then it uses a lot of AWS web services like AWS Lambda, Kinesis, DynamoDB, Amazon CloudWatch, and all the other voice services. So these are already, those APIs can be used, and you can build application using those APIs instead of doing everything from scratch. So this is a good skill to have. Like anyone wants to do a career in IoT can pick up some of this and then master them. And then it provides a lot of, so this is a proven encryption technique they use. So if you're implementing yourself custom build, then you have to ensure that those encryptions are done properly, the authorization is done properly, because IoT is a double-edged sword. So it will allow you to make your life easier. At the same time, it can make your life very vulnerable also. Like all your data can be hacked into. Just imagine you've fitted a camera in your very private places, right, in your home, and suddenly somebody hacks into the camera. What will happen? You can just imagine. So it has to be very secure type of environment where, and these people, these cloud environments would provide you some of the best practices. So this again, it can be used in connected vehicles, connected homes, asset tracking, smart building, industrial IoT. So how is this is implemented? I'll go through some of the steps which are used. One is, firstly, you study the needs. You choose the IoT platform, like whether you want a custom built or whether you want to use a very standard platform which is available, like the ones which I had shown you just now. Once you decide that, then you build a rough architecture, like where my devices are going to be, then where my receivers are going to be, how I'm going to connect them, or how many devices would be required. All these things, you prepare a rough architecture, and then you physically install those devices. So it takes time to installing devices and connecting. If it is a wired connection, it takes still more time. If it is wireless, it is slightly easier to implement. Then you have to register those devices. See, registering, and this is a very important process. You don't want the inputs from your devices to be taken by somebody else. Like for example, if it is Wi-Fi enabled, you don't want somebody else to monitor your access devices, or maybe your whatever controls or sensors you are using. So you have to register the device, and you want only those controllers to be reading the devices and nobody else. Then you have to set up the policies and rules. So what are the policies? When this particular lighting will be on, when it will be off, what is the illumination level you want there? Then what is all those equipments will have individual policies, and the combined policies would be there, security policies would be there, rules would be there. So those you have to set up. And then attach certificates for security. So when registering, you also attach the certificate. So each device will have a certificate, so that there is a secure connection between the devices and the receivers. Then you capture the data. You start capturing the data. You capture the data, test the data, whether you're getting a uniform flow of data, whether there are instances where if there's a power failure, then what happens? All those things you have to check. If there's a connectivity failure, then what happens? And then once you get the data, then you have to once you goes through all the backend system which you have, then you have to plan for what you are going to use with this data. So based on what you're going to use the data, you have to have the roles, who is going to get visibility of what data, in what format, in by which medium, and then how the data is going to be visualized, how the data is going to be related to each other. All those things you have to basically, so normal your ER diagrams and all those things will come. And then last would be the user interfaces, like which user interfaces you are going to use and which interfaces will go to which users. So there's a long planning which is there. I'm not gone into the how you're going to develop the software, because that will become a different entire session in itself. So what are the skills to master, especially for students? So what you should learn if you want to make a career in IoT? So first is you should know about how the sensors work. So for electronics and telecommunication student or electrical student, it will be much easier. But for computer science student, it will be slightly difficult to understand how a proximity sensor works, or how a temperature sensor works, or different more complex sensors work. So, but you should have those knowledge, because unless you have that, what are the limitations, what are the advantages, what are the working conditions under which the sensors work, you won't be able to implement. It will fail. Then a lot of JavaScript and Python scripting is required, because Python is useful because it can easily communicate without a lot of libraries available in Python, which can allow you to communicate between devices, like all the socket programming and all those things will be required. Then UI-centric approach. So if you want to develop good IoT applications, then you should know that what are the interfaces you should give, because these are all consumer-driven technology. These are handled by consumers, and you know, if you want to sell a mobile devices, you know how important is the user interface. Uh, you can make out the difference between a Apple phone and other phones. So same thing is also there. You can give a lot of features, but then if your UI is not user friendly, then it may not work. For backend Node.js development, for people who want to do a lot of API development now. Then machine learning and artificial intelligence, you can learn tools like TensorFlow or many other like AWS's APIs in machine learning and artificial intelligence, because this will require if somebody wants to use this data and bring out with new algorithms to use that data. Big data is for storage, because so much data is, a lot of videos are generated, a lot of images are generated, a lot of non-text information is generated. So you need to have knowledge about big data. Security, as I said, is very important, because you're connecting devices where very important information is getting transferred, and you need to have security absolutely covered. Then GPS systems, because this is again integrated with this. Cloud computing again, because now everything is moving to the cloud. So you don't want local instances of this. Instead of, you want to use the cloud implementation. So all principles of cloud computing is a skill to master, and networking and mobile hardware environment, because all the networking protocols will be used here. So you should have. So I'm not saying that one person should have all the skills. You could focus on certain skills, but ultimately you in your company or in your group, you need people with all these skills, so that you can develop applications of, or you can implement IoT for any kind of, whether it is smart building or smart. Um, so I think I have now 15 minutes. I'll finish this in 5 minutes, and then uh, I'll show you one video, maybe another 2 minutes video, and then I'll finish. So is that fine, Vankat sir? Hello.
Yes, sir.
So I'm just showing you some user interfaces. So for example, there could be a dashboard for the management, dashboard for the operator, dashboard for the building user. So what they do, they would want reliable data for the management, want reliable data for smart decisions. Operator wants centralized control of all the system in the building, and the users want increased comfort, security, and productivity. So based on the profile of the user, you would like to give them the information. So for example, the operator, you can give live feed from cameras, view energy usage, you can give parking status and availability, you can give maintenance data, or maybe maintenance information, what is the past maintenance, sorry, and the availability and booking of amenities. So these information can be given to the operator, and they can also control. For the uh, so this could be a typical interface. One interface I've taken. We can have any kind of interface. Just give me a moment. Battery is gone down. Just a moment. It's fine. Okay. So then this is the interface. I'm showing some of the interface actually graphical, but nowadays lot of smart and beautiful interfaces are being developed by people. So you can control, you can lock, unlock, you can schedule all those things. What you want, entry gate, community hall, or parking gate. So these are. So I've finished with this. I'll show you one or two videos, very small videos of how this can be done. So I'm showing you one. This is not ours actually, it's a third party.
Welcome home.
Let's get to work. Hey, Ron, are you freaking out? No. Yes, you are. Somebody just walked me through.
Good night.
So I think I've finished my presentation. I'm open to questions. Thank you, everyone. I don't know how many people have attended, but I thank you all for giving me a very patient listening. I hope what I've said is useful to you. If there are any questions, I would be happy to take those questions. I'll remove my sharing first.
Thank you, sir. I request all the participants, if you have any questions regarding the today's session or other questions that you would like to ask to our today's expert, they can unmute themselves. You can ask the question.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Arvind sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Sir, I want to ask one thing, sir. That can you tell me what are the major challenges we are facing to implement these smart home system?
So challenges are basically so sensors. The main challenges are sensors and actuators, and the main thing is sensors. So getting the inputs is the main challenge. You should get reliable, proper inputs. Say, for example, I'll give an example. Say you're implementing lighting control in a conference hall. Okay, and you want to place the sensors. Those are motion sensors. So based on like if there is a motion, then the lights would be on, and if there is no motion, the lights would be off. Okay. Now, if suppose the people don't make any movement. There are a lot of people, but they don't make any movement. Then all lights will go off. So you won't get the right inputs. Second thing, if you place the proximity sensors or the motion sensor very close to each other, then a lot of your wiring requirement will go up. So optimization of the inputs, getting proper inputs, and so understanding the environment is very important. Once you get the inputs, now everything is simple, I'll tell you. If you're getting the input and actuating or sort of operating something is much easier than getting an input out of something. So that feedback control system, if it works fine, then I think things are done. And second challenge could be what you do with the data. So normally people, what they do in IoT, they collect a lot of data and they don't know what to do with the data. So it is wastage of resources. So that type, I guess, would be challenges. Apart from whatever technical challenges, I think technical challenges are easier to manage. That's not much. In India, especially one of the technical challenge could be availability of resources, people who know about IoT. But now that is becoming more and more better now. So you get people are willing to spend time and learn technologies. See, IoT is something which is not very new. IoT and AI existed almost 30, 40 years back before also. Like we had a process control. We had process control PUCs or process control or PLC control devices. So this is nothing but IoT. They had sensors, they had limit switches. Like I worked in machine tool company initial part of my career. So that was all IoT, but it was called in a different name. That's all. Yes. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, my voice is audible, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, yes, sir. So, sir, as you said that the resource requirement for IoT implementation in that software part, you mentioned the Python. So basically, sir, which library generally used to program this IoT device in Python? Okay.
I won't be able to tell you exactly which libraries we can use. Basically, you may have to get in contact with people in my company who actually do this.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, so not only Python, there are many other such tools we use in IoT. Plus, we have developed our own platform. So Protium is a platform which we are. So in what happens in IoT is, if you allow people to do a lot of programming, then they won't be able to do it. So it is basically a DevOps kind of environment where you only do the configuration. So we have developed our own language or own scripting algorithm, scripting tool, which is called Protium. So similarly, there are many others. Python, which library, I won't be able to tell you very frankly. I won't be able to say which libraries are used because.
Yes, actually, sir, why I'm asking this question because see, as you said that you have to just configure the device, whatever is available, but sometimes we want to make our own customized prototype device, right? So at that time, we generally require this. So that's why. So, sir, can you just share the email ID or any contact reference? So in futures, whenever we have any like a query, we can communicate to you.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I'll put it in the chat box so you can. I'll get you.
Even sir, sometimes we have a certain idea, but sometimes we stick on that how we can implement. So we can also communicate to your technical team and get the guidance.
Yeah, no worries. So I've put my email ID in the chat box. You can contact me.
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you very much.
There was one question by somebody, apart from other than BACnet, what are the other protocols are used in home automation? So I mentioned few of them, so BACnet is the most popular, but apart from this, I'll tell you like MQTT, then LoRaWAN, then 6 something, I don't remember the name. So there are many such protocols which are used for in connecting the devices. If you go Google it, you will get a lot of, even if you study this, Google IoT, Cisco, Salesforce, then Amazon. So you'll get a lot of information on the even Microsoft Azure. So BACnet is in India. BACnet is very popularly used. Yes. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, any other question from other participant? Okay, so I think so we don't have any question from the participants, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll stop here, sir. So shall I stop, sir, now?
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So thank you, sir. Now I would like to thanks from the organizers of this faculty development program and from the Institute Sri Santagajan Maharaj College of Engineering. I would like to thanks Mr. Arvind Mahapatra for delivering a very nice and knowledgeable session to the participants. And your practical experience that you have delivered to this complete session will help all the participants to do their own research in this field. And also I thanks for answering all the questions of the participants. So with this, I thanks all the participants also for joining this session. So thank you all.
Thank you. Shall I leave now?
Yes, sir. Please. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all the participants. Now we'll join at 4 p.m. and the session will be on IoT hardware design for manufacturability. That will be delivered by myself, and we'll look another aspect of once the product get developed and when we try to manufacture it, what are the different things that you have to take care that will look. So actually this is a different area which is not actually related to the product development, which is related to the product manufacturing. So I'll try to explain all these things in the next session. So thank you all of you for joining here. We'll meet today at 4 p.m. again.
Hello. Hello,
Yeah,
Praveen, sir.
Ashish. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ashish.
Yes, sir. Sir, can we get recording yesterday last session recording?
You will get all the recordings, sir. All the recordings.
Okay, sir. After completion of
No, actually, I am trying
program.
to. Yeah, I am uploading most of the recordings. As I need to download all the recordings,
Okay.
I have to process them. Okay, because there are sometimes the participants or there are so many things are there in the recording. So I need to process them and then I have to upload them onto YouTube.
Okay.
So once I will upload, I will share the links
Thank
to
you
all
so
the
much.
participants. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all.